Before I begin, I would like to wish you all Happy New Year. And I would like to also thank you that you have been staying with my channel for all this time. It genuinely means a lot. Because of you people, I am able to do something that I really enjoy, which is to entertain people from all around the world. And if I can make you think a little bit differently and question certain things, then that makes me even more happy. So with that, let's begin to the funniest story that I have managed to start the year with. Apparently, Joe Biden is actually telling coal miners to learn to code. And the mainstream media is, again, thinking that this is good advice. And they really don't understand why this is very condescending. And it's really annoying to be told and lectured, if you're a miner, that you should learn to code. Now, you would think the journalists from Gizmodo and other leftist publications have learned their lessons when they were getting laid off because their publications weren't making money, they were losing viewership, and they were getting fired left and right. And when people told them on Twitter to learn to code, they were livid about it. And they even made pressure to the people working at the Twitter to ban and censor anyone that would tell a journalist to learn how to code. It was absolutely ridiculous. Now, the question is, why would a journalist not want to learn how to code if apparently it's so good? I mean, look, the programming skills are great. They're doing great. It's because they believe they are above the code. So after years of researching and reading articles after articles from the left-leaning press, I kind of managed to find out how the journalist thinks, how he sees the world. You know, they have like the pyramid for white supremacy, the pyramid for rape culture. I like to call this the pyramid of the asshole leftist journal. And this is how he sees the world, right? Like at the bottom of society, the lowest of the low, the plebs are the working class people, the people that do manual labor, the builders, the miners, the people working in the factory. And it's interesting to see that when the journalist, which sits in his ivory tower in his elite offices in LA with air conditioning, and they write their opinion pieces on how to enrich and improve society and be more progressive, their opinion pieces have tactics which are hurting these people, which are already being hurt by the fact that technology advances and their jobs are being replaced with automation. And they're a very vulnerable group in society that it seems the left activists and the politicians have turned their backs on. Because as much as these leftists talk about socialism and social justice and all the other bullshit, in reality, they seem to favor unrestrained global capitalism that is in favor of bringing as cheap labor as possible. The cheapest labor humanly conceivable, if they can bring it in, they would. And it's really interesting because they have like very left-leaning social stances, but economically, they are very conservative. And if they can have like cheap labor and get a cheaper product out in the market, they're very happy with it. So the working class people are not represented anymore by the left. Instead, who gets represented by the left is the new quote-unquote the better working class, if you will, the IT industry, the people working in office cubicles doing tech support, like the type of people that are now considered to be the acceptables, because the working class that uses manual labor, they're bad people because they constantly complain and whine, and it makes socialism look bad. It makes it seem heartless. So, these are the new type of people that are the preferables. And the journalist suggestion and, the leftist politician's suggestion is that the working class just learns to code, right? And you replace this with cheap labor, and these guys can move up onto the pyramid. But the problem is that when you're moving up, you're competing with all the other people that have been coding for a lifetime, that are young entrepreneurs who have learned to code, people coming in from other countries, learning universities, they're coming without a debt and being able to work for less. And if you complain about that, you're called a racist by the same journalists, right? So they want, more people to be coming to the IT industry, to go to the office cubicles and all of this, so they shut the fuck up and they don't talk about the fact that the mining industry is suffering, that the farm, if the farming industry starts suffering, like they don't want people to talk about that, right? Now, On top of that, they also have like the way they view the world. You know, you have the class of doctors, lawyers, engineers, the ones that are doing great. Again, these are respectable people. They're far, in the eyes of a journalist, is far better than someone that is just going around coding. And then you have the politicians, and finally at the top of the pyramid, the creme de la creme, the spice melange, is the journalist, right? And he views himself as the person organizing society, the person that sets the morals, sets the principles. It's pretty much like the church used to be back in the day. You know, like people would get morality from the church. Now they get it from BuzzFeed and the Guardian. Which, if you basically look at their opinion pieces, it's literally that they tell you how to think. Like they would often, especially in Britain, they would come up with a guy that you've never heard about it, and it's like, this guy is running for this. This is why he's a bad guy, and you shouldn't vote for him. It's insane. But yeah, so when you tell a journal to learn how to code, you're basically telling him that he now needs to go down into the muck, into the disgusting canals where the plebs are, the barely acceptables of society, and you're telling him, it's like, yeah, why don't you lower yourself all the way down to the place where you can code? And this is why they don't like it. This is why they view it as an insult, because they're above the code. They are far better than the code. But you know what's the actual funny part? Is that if you're a person, a journalist that has a PhD in women dancing studies, in feminist dancing classes or whatever, that there were actually those people on Twitter, or a PhD in Twilight, or like this is something retarded like that, chances are, if you get fired, you're going to have a far more difficult time finding a job than the people that can use manual labor. Because I tell you what, like, there's never going to be a shortage of people that need to know how to build, of people that need to be plumbers, of electricians. Like, these people are far more likely to specialize into a field that is closer to what they used to be doing, which is manual labor. And they're going to be able to find a job, even though it's low paid and it's hard hours, and it's going to be worse than the jobs that they're living, than the journalist, which just has a PhD in the post-colonial studies. So yeah, this is why the journals are panicking like that. But it's also another thing to point out. Like, you have these people which have a grievance, right? They're upset that they're losing their job. And this can be a traumatic event for them, right? Like, there's entire communities built around the mine. Like, entire communities built around the factory. And you're telling them, yeah, the factory might shut down. And of course that causes panic. And here you have the left just saying, well, instead of fixing the problem, why don't you just compete with the people from the IT industry? Why don't you just, level up and compete with these people? And then you have Donald Trump that comes in and says, we're going to try to bring back jobs. We're going to try to bring the shit back from China. We're going to try to keep your jobs open. Who do you think these people are going to vote, you morons? Do you honestly think they give a fuck if Donald Trump has 2 scoops of ice cream or whatever you're trying to impeach him for? Or any of this ridiculous bullshit that you're scraping up? Of course they don't. Like, the only thing they care is to keep their job, and they don't care how many women Trump grabs by the pussy if that's what it takes. Because for them, the job is more important. That job that the leftist looks at it with disgust and disdain is like, the working class. Yeah, for them it's really important. For them it's a lifestyle. And I guarantee to you, if you would have like massive layoffs and the journalist industry would take such a hit that literally every journal would risk losing his job like the working class are, and you'd have a president that would say, yeah, we're going to bring back jobs for the journals, all of a sudden you'd be on board and you wouldn't give a shit about what other principles he has or whatever, things he wants to do. As long as he's not like trying to take away human rights or be full-blown fascist to our citizens and it's not affecting you and your family, you're going to vote for it. Because that's how people think. But the difference is that these people can't put themselves into the working class shoes. For a second, they can't. Like, people like me can. I worked at KFC. I worked at McDonald's, okay? I have been on a construction site. I know how it is. It's very difficult. It's a heartbreaking job, and it's a noble job. It's something that someone has to do it. And I really appreciate the fuck out of the people who do it, who put their health at risk, right? And I definitely understand why these people are scared and why these people are very vulnerable right now. And you see politicians and journalists just turn their back on them and then not understand, well, why don't we get the vote? Like, the most disgusting thing that I have seen in 2018 was the guy from the BBC calling himself a socialist, calling himself even more leftist than Labour. He was gorging himself on taxpayer money, went to a dinner, and I believe he spent around 230 pounds on buying expensive wines and chateaus and royales and all that other bullshit on the taxpayer money. He gorged himself. And then he talks about the story how he went into the conference room at BBC and he found like a white working class guy, and he looked at him like he saw a savage from the Amazon, a savage from the Congo. So basically, like, these people from their taxpayer money are paying these guys, which are complete assholes. So no wonder you're going to get Trump 2020. And until the left at least returns to the working class, they're not going to win. Like, they think, oh, we're going to campaign based on race, you know, and it's like we're going to just promise a lot of things to immigrants and to people that are, you know, brown and black and whatever and Muslim and all of the other things. It's like, I'm telling you, these people have more in common with the working class people than you think. They might vote your way because they think you have their backs, but in reality, eventually, they're going to realize that, holy shit, hold on a little bit. You know, like, we need factories, we need places to work. These are important. I'm generally curious, you know, this is my speculation. Maybe I'm wrong, you know, maybe I'm wrong. But I'm willing to bet there's going to be more Latinos and more blacks voting for Trump in 2020 than they were in the previous election cycle. So this is my call. You know, let's see if I'm right or not. Let's see if I'm wrong. But again, usually I'm very rarely wrong with these issues. So I haven't even looked at a single survey. I don't know, but I'm willing to bet that there's going to be more blacks voting for Trump. Why? Because he gave black people jobs. And jobs are one of the most important things that people want. And by the way, like, the condescending thing to tell someone to learn to code. Motherfucker, imagine if you're 50. Imagine if you're 60. Like, these people, like my grandfather or my parents, if the first time they got to a computer, like, they had the chicken peck way of typing. You know? It's like, these people have worked in mines for 10, 11, 12 hours a day. You know, they didn't have time like you, who write an article and that has like 6 hours time to do whatever they want and complain on the Twitter. Like, I don't know how the journalists even manage to work given how much time they spend on the Twitter. But for some reason, right, they think that the miner is now going to have the time to just, I don't know, just take a completely different profession than what he is used to and do it just as good, if not better, than the people who have been using a computer for their entire life. You think that's solid advice, do you? I mean, it would kind of make sense if you told them to, I don't know, become an electrician or, you know, a carpenter or something else that requires manual labor, because that's what they did their entire life. But then you're like, oh, just you know, like, why not become a doctor while you're at it? You know, just, so you're going to put these people in debt. You're going to make, you know, these people take these courses and be in debt. And probably not be hired because there's going to be someone coming from the outside which has done a university in his country, probably for free or for very cheap at least, and doing a far better job. So no, you're giving them poisonous advice. That's what you're doing. And the journals know this because when they were told to learn how to fucking code, they had to go cry on Twitter, trust and safety, to keep them safe from those evil people telling them, you know, what they tell others. Have to rant a little bit because honestly, it's like I hope that every time I make a video, you know, usually I get like 10,000 views per video, and I really want to thank people for sharing my videos because I wouldn't be able to get that with YouTube's algorithm. Like, I know there's people sharing them on social media and stuff, so I really appreciate that. And what I sincerely hope is that at least one person from those 10,000 is a leftist, and he watches my videos and goes like, you know what, maybe this Romanian idiot has a point. You know, maybe this is a problem. Because it is important to have a left-leaning party in a country. Believe it or not, it is. Like, this is how democracy used to function. You have left-leaning people coming in with their crazy ideas and implementing them. And then you have the conservatives coming in, and the ideas that are crazy they dismiss or they repeal, and the ones that aren't so crazy they keep. This is how democracy has functioned in my country and throughout the world for centuries. Right? So it wouldn't be good to just have like constant right-wing parties winning. Because the more people get comfortable with power, the more people get comfortable with their seats, the more corrupt they become, the more the more they have connections and they start having people that they do favors for and call favors from. It's not good to have like the same party constantly in government. Look what happens in the United Kingdom and other places, like Germany and whatnot. Like people who are too drenched into power become corrupt. Doesn't matter their ideology. And it's good to have like a healthy left-leaning party that people can vote for. But the current state that the left is in, no one is going to vote for that. You know, only people that are delusional are going to vote for it. They offer nothing to the working class. Put yourself into the shoes of a miner. They outright tell you they don't care about you. It's like, go find another job. They outright tell you that in nice ways and, you know, in a way that is more polite and more general. And if you're in the IT industry, it's like, yeah, we're going to open the gates for more people to compete with you. So that the companies can literally have the most draconic measures against you because they don't give a shit about you. Because if you get fired or you quit, there's 1,000 other people waiting at the door. And it's good for the economy as a whole, but it's not good for you that's working in that condition. How can you go to your boss and negotiate a raise when there's 10,000 other people willing to take your place? It's insane. You're not competing with only other Americans now. You're competing with the rest of the world. Oh, and it's racist to point it out. Don't forget that. You're going to have the journalists tell you that it's racist. As if it matters. As if I care. If I were to lose my job to a person of color or not. I don't give a shit. I still lose my job. But again, like, you can't talk about these things. Because it's like, oh my God, it's not politically correct or whatnot. Calling them out on what it is. Like, honestly, the people that are doing this, they're not leftists. They are capitalists. I'm sorry to say that. They are. Like, they just care about cheap labor. That is the bottom line. And they ally with the woke leftists, the ones that are for social justice and bullshit, because they're useful idiots. They really are. If you look where the money is people that have millions, if not billions of dollars that are supporting these policies. Because they want cheap labor. Thank you for watching my videos, and I'll see you guys later.